Hey, that's a bop right there. I don't know if y'all know, but I rather enjoy bass so much so I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm sitting there, countdowns happening, and I'm just in the zone. I'm like, some good music right there. Welcome back to the Friday Live Helpcast with me, your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. I'm so excited. Today we're talking about some content goals. If you have questions, whether you're watching this live or on the replay, obviously you don't need to use the Q on the replay. But if you're live and in the chat, put a Q, put a colon, and then ask your questions. That's what this Friday Live Helpcast is all about, helping you simplify the video creation process so you can reach wider and connect deeper with the people that need you the most. It ain't nothing wrong with listening to a little Christmas vibes happening out here in these digital streets. Hope you're having a fantastic day and a great start to your mid-morning of something of the like, talking about some content goals and plans and the whatnot on this fine Friday midday morning. I mean, technically it's still AM here in the Central Standard Time Zone, and probably for those of you on the Eastern Standard Time it's not, and then for sure Pacific. I really don't like that. There's a small asterisk there. I really don't care for the Pacific and Standard and whatever. Anyhow, we got Wally out here in these digital streets. Good to see you, Wally. I did see your email because you won the brand new offer for free coaching session on the interview that we did with Blind Guy, his wife, their life, which was awesome. So glad to see you here. And today we're diving into some more content details about planning and having your 2023 content goals. What does that look like? And making sure that actually implement some things that are worth your time. I think one of the biggest things for entrepreneurs right now, content creating entrepreneurs, is like there's a ridiculous amount of free content out there, a ridiculous amount. But what should you leverage? What worked this year? What didn't work? One of the things that I found extreme value out of is at the end of the day, during what I call a daily debrief. So at the end of every day, I have my journal. I actually have it right here because once I'm done with this, I'm going to do my morning debrief. But I have my journal that I have, which is only a few pages away from being done. But this one has a lot of gold nuggets in it. But what's your daily debrief? A lot of times, the thoughts that you're rethinking, whether you're an entrepreneur, a content creating entrepreneur, you're just into the tech side of things, whatever it is, you're rethinking a lot of stuff, rethinking the same thoughts because you're not logging them anywhere. Having that daily debrief at the end of the day, but then also starting the morning, starting that day with what's like the most pressing thing that's on my mind. And I would encourage you, if you're planning to do your content goals before you get into any kind of goal setting, do that. Do some kind of like, where you get it all off your chest. What went well? What didn't go so well? What would you have liked to have seen happen? And then, like, this is one question. If you do nothing else and you answer it daily, you at least get that chip off of your shoulder as a creator. Then ask yourself, like, what is the most pressing, frustrating thing? It's usually like, what is on my mind the most today? Like, what's really just like, I got to get this off my chest. But I'm going to give y'all the golden nugget, because content planning actually doesn't have to be that difficult. Honestly, the more complex you make it, the more you make it sometimes harder to follow or harder to execute. But it doesn't have to be, not necessarily. Got over here, Alan Jones in the building saying hi, freezing from Belfast. Hope you're good. We only got rain here in the Midwest. We only got a little bit of rain, which thankfully usually would be trying to become some ice, but thankfully it is not. We don't need that out here in these real streets. So, but I think December has gotten so weird. It's like, I guess depending on where you live, it might be cold, and sometimes it might be like extremely weird. Like, side note, and then we'll get back to the point, and then we'll move on to any questions. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. Also, later today, I will be on the Social Media Examiner channel we're doing YouTube. Usually we do like the YouTube update, the news, and the like, all things YouTube. Over on Social Media Examiner, you'll see, even if you go to the videos, well, the homepage tab of the channel, you'll see a list of some of the videos that I've done over there, which has been a lot of fun this year. So final stream YouTube wise for the year over there. So really looking forward to it. But I'm gonna give you all a golden nugget real quick. When it comes to content goes, whether you're watching this live on the replay, you're gonna want this. This is how, before you start planning, you make sure you're at least going in the right direction. It does you no good to do any kind of content planning for your channel or whatever, and you start going in the wrong direction. I don't care if it's like, I want to color grade better so I can stand out in your market. Maybe you're an author, you're an accountant, you're a coach, you're a real estate agent or whatever, and you want to stand out because everybody else, not that it's a discredit to them, but they may be using their smartphones. So you invested in a camera, you invested in gear, you want to know how to use it better, so maybe you can stand out in your niche, at least visibly. Okay, let's make sure you're going in the right direction. I'm gonna give you this, and then we'll go into a little bit of Q&A. Not sure how long we'll be doing the stream today. Usually, we did at least do an hour. The last couple of weeks, it's been 2 hours. And hopefully we don't get any last minute buzzes as I'm like closing out the show and then somebody asks a question, which is fine because I try to make it the goal to answer all the questions on the stream. So here's the one thing that I want you to think about. At least most of the time, like, people write, like they don't write anymore. They type, text, whatever. Just one time, pull out a piece of paper, grab a pen, keep mine handy dandy on the side of my journal, so I always have it. And then another one, just in case that one disappears someplace. Write down, what is the unspoken desire that you haven't answered on your channel? What is that you haven't discussed? The one thing I understand, but at the same time, it can be frustrating. And I've had these conversations with clients. I've had these conversations even just in DMs. And people, like, they make a myriad of content, and then one video pops, but it's not the one that they want. And it brings in all this attraction of a group of people that they don't want to be there. And it's like, I was just kind of making this as an accessory video. Like, it's in addition to the main stuff. It's like the main stuff isn't hitting, but that one video spiked and it's pissing me off. And it's the funniest thing because you're having success in the wrong area. So if you want to understand, like, at least start out your content planning in the right direction for 2023, if you haven't done this already. And then pro tip for 2023, start doing this in around the summer. Start planning the next year. That's what I do every year. Around about August, I'm looking at the next year because we're halfway through. And by the time you get to this last quarter of the year, it just flies by. October was just here. October was just here, then it's just gone. So again, I'm going to say this question again. What is the unspoken desire that you haven't answered on your channel? And the reason why I position that question that way is because when somebody subscribes to the channel or they're coming there or whatever video attracted them there, they have a want, need, desire that they're obviously social behavior of YouTube. I want something. I'm going to the search bar, usually type it in. I see your video, or I see your videos recommended somewhere in that process. Maybe the thumbnail is good enough or interesting enough that I think it speaks to me. I'm going to click on it. And now it's your job to make sure you'd actually deliver. That's great for that one thing, but what's next? What's the unspoken desire that you really haven't addressed on your channel? Sometimes it can feel like stagnant. And then sometimes, like, life is happening. One thing I like to do on the podcast, which I've been taking a break from, feels like everything almost, minus like doing the Entree Chats Daily Morning podcast in the membership community, though that's 5 days a week. Like, I had to really focus in on a lot of stuff just to get this book done. And thankfully I heard back from the company that's doing the cover. So hopefully to have a cover reveal soon. I was hoping to have it today, but alas, we do not. But when you really position it that way, it's like sometimes you can feel like you're stagnant in what you're doing. It's like, I'm tired of talking about this, or I'm tired of feeling like you're forced to only talk about that. Well, what's the unspoken desire that maybe you haven't addressed for your target or ideal viewer? And not just your ideal viewer, what happens after you maybe convert that person into maybe doing channel memberships on YouTube? Maybe you have your own membership, like we have the Video Simplified membership community. Maybe you offer a course or a product or something in your business. There's something for them to invest in, for them to transition into being a customer. Then that starts on a different customer journey. But before all of that, how do you keep them? How do you get them and keep them? What's the unspoken desire? So start there before you go into any further depths of planning, putting together these massive calendars. Are you going in the right direction? Let's get into some comments real quick. What's up, Brian Jones? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Guys, if you have questions, throw those. Put that Q colon in the chat. I guess you could just put your question in the chat. Q colon in the chat. Saying, hey, checking in from Denver, Lamar Griffin. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. And hello from Long Island, a place that I surprisingly have not been to yet for whatever reason. What's up? David Hunt saying hello from Massachusetts. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button if you're getting value out of today's stream. Like I said, I didn't want to do a presentation, put together slides and all the like, but what's the unspoken desire that you haven't addressed? Now, I would say that next step, that next layer of thinking that you want to start going into, what are the questions that are posed around this, or what are the pain points? It's always going to be, what is the thing that's bothering your core target audience or whatever? And it doesn't have to be like life-threatening or whatever. It doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying, something so serious in that way. But what's the thing that bothers them? This is where storytelling becomes a thing. And most entrepreneurs, content creating entrepreneurs, they don't see how that works. They feel like storytelling is for filmmaking, or if you're doing something, I don't know, something more along those lines, but it's not. Storytelling works all the time. And let me show you how. I remember thinking I wanted to do a Final Cut tutorial, and that Final Cut tutorial is doing really well. And it actually just kind of like hit another spike. So it's going through another peak, because that video is maybe a year and a half old or something like that. And it's hit another peak. Why? Because all customer journeys have somewhat a cycle, or sometimes things are seasonal, especially around like Techtober. So number one, first thing we did in the business, I can tell you things that I've done in planning my 2023 goals. Easy thing to think about is, what are the seasons in your niche? What are the seasons in your niche? What's the things that are constantly happening? In October, we have Techtober. In November, obviously, we have, at least for my space and stuff like that, you have Thanksgiving. So you have Black Friday, you have the after Thanksgiving Day sales that continuously happen. Then you have Cyber Monday, then you have Cyber Week. Somewhere in June, July, in the summer months, you'll have where it's Prime Week and Prime Days and stuff like that. It just kind of like gets to a point where holidays are created, but at least keep up with them. It's fine if you're catching those like third party or whatever. That's cool. Now, what's the associated related holidays? Stuff that's just for fun. Things like that for me would be like National Coffee Day. Things will be like, I don't know if it is, but it should be a National White Chocolate Day, because white chocolate is better than dark chocolate. Okay. Might have them just put that on my gravestone. She said white chocolate is greater than dark chocolate, because it is. And if you eat milk chocolate, you're fine. It's kind of, it's like napkins on a table. It's there. It does its job. That's what milk chocolate is. But white chocolate, it's on the buffet in heaven. I'm trying to tell you how to live your life. Trying to tell you. What's up, Roy Bagudi? Is that right? Is that how you pronounce your last name, Roy? Let me know if that is. We have Big Pontiac. Good to see you. Greetings. Glad that you're here. David said, I'm sorry that I missed the giveaway on Blind Guide the other day. No problem. Now, you did have a question. Just a quick derail here. You did have a question over there that didn't get answered, to my understanding, because just for time or what have you, or the activity of chat. So go ahead and post your question here, because you asked something about when I was on another show with Keith Pelzer, and you asked some additional details about it, but you know your question better than I do. So if you guys have questions, put those in the chat. I'm just going through some of the stages of things that you can start to kind of like chip away at the heaviness that it feels like when it comes to content planning, because it shouldn't have to be that hard. And here's the thing I want you all to remember. You can change your plan. At least have a plan in place. See if like you need to course correct a little bit. And it's better to at least be in motion. And this is the phrase that will set you free, I promise you. I am in the process of. Sometimes when you just definitively say, I don't have this yet, I only have this, This isn't happening. We ain't been able to, all of that stuff. That stuff will keep you down. That stuff will keep you down, unfortunately. If you learn to change your words and change your mindset around the things that you're doing, the best thing that you can do, I am in the process of. I get it's hard days. It's hard seasons. This year, we had some hard seasons. Personally, when I'm physically not feeling well, y'all know I deal with the stage 4 endometriosis stuff, it bugs me. Up here, I'm ready to do some work. Physically, I'm stuck. So again, whatever you may be going through or whatever happened, let it go. It's fine. You're going to have another 365 that's about to happen. So what do you need to change your language around? What are you in the process of? I would love to know. Whether again, were you watching this live or you catch the replay? What are you in the process of? What are you in the process of? Like I said, I left off on like holidays, like your major niche holidays, your seasons, like understanding your niche's holiday season and stuff. Let me get this window down. It's bugging me. What are your like niche seasons? Then what are those like fun things? Those fun seasons, again, like National Coffee Day. It could be National iPhone Day, Cord Cutters Day, the things that are like more about you. It could be X-Men Day. It was one of those days where it was like May the 4th be with you, May 4th for Star Wars. So what are those things that like around you? Because your audience obviously wants to know you more than just only the things. Then, like I said, you are looking into what's the unspoken desires that your audience may have. Beyond that, what are those questions that now are there? It's kind of like bubbling. It hasn't come to a rolling boil yet, but what's bubbling that's about to erupt? What are they like? Oh, I was thinking about that. Hadn't typed it in a search yet, but your content should suggest other pieces of your content. And I'm specifically talking about YouTube. Other platforms, you may need to do something different, but this is specifically for YouTube. So, that being the case, what are those questions you haven't answered yet? Now, how does storytelling play into that? Easily. Because storytelling is like, for example, let's say, like we talked about Ecamm Live, even wearing like the Leap in the live stream that I spoke at, which I appreciate the shirt. But I know I don't do the ashy lips, so. But what are those questions, those unspoken desired questions that need to be addressed? It may not be a question, it just may be a topic. Sometimes, and I saw a creator that I like, that I follow, she makes amazing stuff just from not like, it's not some Peter McCormick, B-roll sequence or nothing like that. It's just her being her. I like watching her content. I think she's dope. But like something came out, like a recent microphone or something, and she was like, it's already a lot of great videos out there. I'm not even gonna make one about it. It's like, y'all can just go watch somebody else. And I could tell at that moment, like, she's struggling mentally. I've been there. It sucks. That's why you need creator community. That is why you need to be in a creator community. Pause for the cause. If you, I'm doing something different this year for existing moderators. Well, again, when you watch this live or on the replay, and you got to answer quick. It's going between this and next week. We'll be doing this so I can make sure I need at least 10 solid moderators to be on the stream every week, because we're going to be doing something different. But you're going to get 6 months access, all access pass, all the courses in the Video Simplified community. So if you want to get access to that, our email account, bookdianagladney@gmail.com. So I don't have to deal with no bots and stuff on the other one. bookdianagladney@gmail.com. Put it in the subject line, I want to be a moderator. If you are already, and if you've been active, you have to be active. Can't have a badge from like 2 years ago. You'd be like, oh man, come on. But if you want to be one, if you're a subscriber and you want to be one, you're going to get 6 months access to the membership community, the Video Simplified community. That includes the courses, that includes the podcast. So you'll get a 6 months free, and then you'll start afterwards. So that'll cover you into the summer. And I promise you, you're going to want to be one of these 10 moderators in these next coming weeks. I promise you that. So if you want to be a part of that, put it in the subject line, I want to be a moderator. And then just so I know your information, like your first and last name, because obviously I won't know from the channel stuff here. But let me know. I got something for you. All right. But yeah, let me go into the comments. I saw a couple. Saying the door kicked in. Nothing wrong with that. Marine X, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Question, and then I'll come back to finish up and wrap up what I was talking about. Question, I want to upgrade from the A10 Mini because I can only stream in 1080p. Do you know of a video switcher that I can use to stream in 4K? I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't. Now, and everybody feels like, disclaimer, everyone feels like because I love Ecamm personally, we've done business with them, like, and partnered with them, all those kinds of stuff with Ecamm, right? Hell, I'm even wearing one of the shirts today. But sometimes it's just better. Get a Mac Mini, $600. Because whatever you buy is going to be in that price range. And I get, like, people like, I'm PC. Can we just squash that for a minute? You earn nothing from Apple. You earn $0 from Apple. You earn $0 from Windows or Android or whoever. They pay you $0 for that brand loyalty. I would suggest moving into the season. It's not for you, the comment. I'm gonna come back to you in a second. But just in general, can we move away from that? Get what you need to do what you need to do. Period. Just get what you need to do what you need to do. I personally recommend, because, you know, what I don't deal with, and I'm gonna tell you both sides of the coin, like if you are not a Mac user and if you are, Ecamm Live. You know why? Because the same thing that of what I'm doing. So here's one workaround. Some people record in the A10 Mini or whatever. Now, the problem with that one is you can't see, like, let's say your 4 different camera angles that you have hooked in via HDMI. You're just kind of flying by at the seat of your pants, essentially, hoping that what you see or something is queued up. They have the A10 Mini Pro that you can get, and so you will be able to see access to it. What I would recommend is, if your camera is actually shooting 4K, this is one option. If it's actually shooting 4K, yeah, it's going to send like the 1080p feed or whatever, but whatever you're using to export that data, hopefully not just the A10 Mini, you can rescale that back to 4K and it will survive as long as, like, the camera and stuff is solid enough. Number 2, get a Mac Mini, $600, still going to be in the price range of whatever. Get Ecamm Live, and here's why. Because all that stuff is already built in, and you can do 4K, and as quiet as kept, if you haven't heard about the new beta, isolated audio is the thing in Ecamm Live. That means each individual feed, camera feed, you will have recorded. So, to some extent, you can do it or whatever, even if you just had the current version of Ecamm right now. That's what we've been doing anytime I've needed to do an event or something like that. But that's one option. You have the A10 Mini Pro or whatever, and there's a couple other devices. I can't call them by name. There's some, like, major scale A10 Mini, not A10 Mini specifically, A10 devices and stuff. And then I would say, honestly, go to B&H Photo and ask them in their chat service what they have that sometimes isn't, like, easy to find for whatever reason. Sometimes what they would recommend. They can tell you what they have in stock and maybe sometime what's coming in there. And then also ask KEH or Adorama. One of them has chat support as well. And same question. Ask them the same thing. I don't do the switchers personally. I've tried them. I don't like them because I can't see the feed. Number one, like I said, it's 1080p. We do all things in 4K, including micro content. So it just winds up, like, sucking. And then when we pulled the A10 feed and put it into Ecamm, Ecamm only saw one camera because it was only the one HDMI thing. I'm not a personal fan, but you can temporary downscale that, but and re-upscale that. If you need to buy something more like their massive A10 device, just make sure you secure a project and budget in and factor in the cost instead of just buying it and then waiting for a project. Factor in your contract for you to actually have that thing. Like, it's like a rental fee or something like that will cover what you need. Rental fee, labor, I'm trying to think of some other things like that, how we would organize that contract. But it's like you have the rental fee for the gear and equipment that's used, even if it's already paid for, and then you have like whatever licensing stuff like that. But just make sure you have a gig that pays for whatever the thing is that you need if it goes into the $8,000 to $1,000 range. That'd be my suggestion there for you, Marine X. Equip Institute, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying happy to catch you today. Indeed, my dear. I will be here until, well, I'm trying to be mindful. So if I'm just looking at my watch, because I have that interview over at Social Media Examiner at 1:40, or it's at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we got a little bit of time. But I want to make sure I answer you guys' questions. If you have questions, put a Q colon in the chat and we'll get around to that. Roy asking question. I'm in the process to start a video podcast. I own a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. Looking for ideas for background for the video. I feel like I'm overthinking it. Man, no, you're not. You're not overthinking it, but you know what it is? You go on YouTube, you research video podcast, you see Omar's nugget on Think over at Think. And you see all these different options. You're like, man, do I need the light thing? Do I need this? Then you keep going through the YouTube search, okay? Looking for other stuff, and you see all these different things. Like, man, I'm gonna have to get a bookshelf and add books to it. So here's the thing. No, you don't have to stress over that. The number one thing first, these are like the thoughts that you have to go through in order to get the things. Number one, what's the focal range that you're actually going to have coverage for? Meaning, you guys only see like here, it's like right at the edge of the second table that's over there that you hardly ever see unless I'm sitting over there. I have that like accent wall of stuff that I've put up there just because I needed another set design. And then over here, you don't really see anything because you used to see the bookshelf, the other bookshelf that's over there. But you know why that's set up that way? Because that's the frame for where I'm going to sit and where the stream is going to be. For the most part, it'll be something like that. And so because of that, where am I going? I'm trying to slide back over to where I was in the center. Like, figure out what focal length, how much space you have that you're going to be at, and then just figure out what you need. If you need to go to the thrift store and get some books, get you some books. I'm serious. Like, so what people don't know about me, I used to be, once you join, you're in for life. But I joined in high school, the Thespian Society. So like you do acting, you do plays and stuff like that. It's total amazing just experience and just so much fun. But the thing I loved more than like doing some of the like roles and stuff would be like the set design and playing with that stuff, because the audience is only going to see what's on the sides of the curtains. So you only need to design for that. And then what are the most important elements, some of the things that contribute to that? IKEA is a great place to go. You can find like budget furniture and stuff like that and kind of put together a set guide based on the framing that you're going to have the cameras. So maybe when you cut in to person A or person number one, like there's, like I say, you got a small picture or something that maybe could be the YouTube plaque, or if they don't have anything like that, maybe they were in a magazine or something like that. Print that out, full color, put it in a picture frame. Like you see, I got John Coltrane back there, just because John Coltrane was somebody that inspired me when I was doing music, when I was playing the saxophone. So I just have things around me that inspire me or speak to me, things that I care about, the books I actually read and actually own. So those are there. The table is just like extra. So think about like how much are people actually going to see, and just design for that space. Yeah, maybe get a bookshelf. Go to, like I said, IKEA, that little plant back there. You can get one of those. Those are like $7 or $10 at IKEA. They can be fake because I can't take care of plants. I don't have a green thumb. I'm not in the process of having a green thumb, apparently, because that poor plant passed away. Sorry too, buddy, it didn't last. So that's a plant, but the little container still looks nice. So I use it. I went to the store, got some images. And so you constantly are kind of like building, but just get like some basic things. You don't have to get a ton of books. Maybe get some the older books, like encyclopedias and stuff. They're going to be blurry anyway, but you just need the image of building what that design looks like. You can do this really on a budget. And then from there, like as you get like more ideas or things that you actually may need or want to prop, I usually like to do fun stuff and move my X-Men characters. Storm is back there, a couple different versions of her across the X-Men universe. And so I would move them around to be doing different stuff. Just little fun things in the videos. So that's what I would say for set design. You're not overthinking it. You're just probably overthinking it, but you're not putting too much thought into it, was what I'm saying. But just think about, if you got a 16 millimeter, it's not going to be that much wider. So just pay attention to the frame, go to that space, set your camera up, record for a second, or take a picture with your phone. So when you go into the store, you can actually, like, with that fit, with that look right kind of a thing. Side note, and I'm gonna move on. My friend actually helped me with that. I brought her in here. The room was completely blank. I said, I don't know anything about this design stuff. Just like, help me get started. She said, okay. She said, you need at least a dominant color. So if you don't know anything about color, welcome to the club. She said, you at least need a dominant color to start a theme of what you want to do. And I was like, I don't want it to be dark. I was like it's where it's like black and reds and stuff like that or whatever. I was like, I want it to be like somewhat bright or whatever, but not overpowering. I didn't like the rose gold and the real pinks and all that stuff. That ain't me. So she found this painting that's back there, and it's got that green door, and that's what we started with. The rest of that kind of don't matter. It was just the green door. And so we went and got accents for stuff, and then I went and got the settee. Then I went to IKEA and I'm like, well, I want to do white instead of like black. Just, you progressively add to it. I use this space as an office, so that's why stuff is set up this way. But if you go back in the catalog of content, it was really bare. It had some ugly bookshelves, and I'm like, I need to do something with it. So just start with the framing, fill that enough. You got your seating, put a plant, fake plant, the little pretty ones from IKEA, get you a table. Round looks good on camera instead of square. Try those. You got your podcast arms. Stuff comes together. Just don't overclutter the space. I hope that helps you. That was a great question, by the way. What's up from Mumbai? Is that Aryan? Rain? Let me know if I pronounced your name correctly. Hello, Diana. How much does a video editor cost, and could you recommend one? Is it just me? Insight with T. I like that channel. So here's the thing. Video editors range. Fun fact, I'm hiring for a new micro content editor. So if you want to apply for that position, go to book.dianagladney@gmail.com. But video editors, it depends. Are you hiring US based or are you hiring overseas? If you're hiring US based, you're going to incur a higher cost. And there is something to be said about those that understand sometimes like the American culture. Not that if you get an overseas one, they won't. But some of them, again, depending on their skill level and depending on their like knowledge and stuff, like my team is a remote team. They're overseas. And so the first thing that I did before I hired anybody overseas was learn about the culture. What is important to them? What do they like? What kind of foods do they eat? I watched a lot of videos about the Philippines. I invested in books. I invested in course information so I could learn about the culture. Do you have to go to that depth? Not maybe the course side of things, because now you could probably find stuff on YouTube or whatever. But like, figure out the culture. You don't have to even understand the language or whatever. If somebody's happy, you see the joy. That's the one thing I notice about all of them. They smile all the gosh darn time. Just happy, joyous, not that they won't have stress or sadness, but what's the culture like? So I learned about their culture, and I want to make sure they also understand about the culture here. Second thing though, what's the culture of your company or your brand if you're just an individual? Maybe you don't have an LLC or something like that. What's the culture of you? What do you care about? What are the things you care about? The number one thing I care about is obviously you, the person, making sure you're healthy and you're together. Do you have any things that may prevent you from working or whatever? Like I said, stage 4 endometriosis changed my life. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. But it made me more caring of sometimes people have chronic headaches. Is that something that's going to prevent you from being able to work sometimes? It's not going to be a deterrent. If I don't hire them, I wouldn't do that. But personally, what's your culture and your brand? Then the second thing is family first. My company, they're like, oh man, I'm sick, but I'm trying to, or I've had where it's like, well, my baby's sick, and like I know I was supposed to turn that video in. Go handle your child. You're gonna get one of them, the one you got. That one ain't coming back around again. Maybe have more children. Go take care of your family. It's like, oh, my husband, oh, my wife is sick, or my spouse is sick. Go right now. If you log back in, we're going to have a problem. It's just the culture of my brand because family comes first. Obviously, faith, everybody's a faith-based individual in my company, so faith is an important thing. So like that is that stuff that kind of like matters because that's what's ultimately going to determine if they stay or if they leave, or if they want to stay or if they want to leave. It's a thing. Second thing is like how much for cost, factoring in everything that I talked about. Now we get into skill. What's the baseline? Number one, you know who are the people that don't qualify? What are things that just, I don't know if I've published that video yet because we're also hiring somebody for thumbnails. You want to apply for that position, book dianagladney@gmail.com. But it's like, what does a person look like that doesn't qualify? Again, we have the Building a Team course, buildingateam.live. I'm still going to answer your question, but just want you to know that. What are they going to do that they don't qualify? That's just like an absolute no. Number two, what's the bare minimum? Number three, it's like, okay. Number four, it's like, okay. Like, all right, yeah, this could work. Few things I don't personally like, maybe because of the client that you work with. You're going to get files from people, like of their examples. And then number five is a home run. Okay. How much does it cost? Depends on that skill level. They doing the bare minimum, they're going to be cheap. But you also going to have to pay for them to learn the right stuff, or your content and stuff is going to pay. And it doesn't pay to hire people like that if you're not willing to train them and be patient with that. So that'll cost you more money because they're going to have more revisions, fixing stuff, missing stuff. Somebody that's in the middle, they got the baseline requirements for the most part, but they're going to cost them, like, you'll see videos where people like, you can pay anywhere from $2 to $5 or whatever. You're also going to understand like their cost of living and stuff is increasing too. And it depends on the where. Here in the US, even you can go to Fiverr or something, maybe it's $50 a video, $30 a video, $100 per video. It's either going to be a per video, or you can look at hiring someone per hour. Both are options, but can you afford that? If somebody says, can you pay me, I don't know, I think like the local White Castle, McDonald's and stuff, they pay like $16, $17 US per hour. Could you afford that in the US? Most of the time, for most people, the answer is no, which is why you hire overseas, so you can actually add more money to the business here to produce more money in the economy here. It's not necessarily to get around stuff, at least in my philosophy. So now what does it cost? Depending on skill level, maybe about, it could be $3 or something. And it may be, they got some learning to do. Sometimes you can find some raw talent. $4, $5, and $6. They kind of, for the most part, are like, again, they're a little bit higher level. Sometimes people just charging more and they're like, don't qualify for that. And then if you're paying somebody again $8 to $10 US, it's the Bees Knees Hall of Fame home run. You're not having to do any kind of revisions or something. That's like I said, per hour. You don't have, those are just market numbers, essentially. How much you actually pay somebody, get a quote, like, and establish what you can actually afford to pay somebody consistently. Because if you can only afford to hire somebody for 2 months, probably go to Fiverr Pro. It's a real thing. Go to Fiverr Pro and just see what that process is like, or what your process should be like, or what you like or what you don't like. And then that way you're not committed to anything. You're paying per whatever. They already have the rate set there. You have Fiverr as the in-between. See what you can afford. What can you actually afford? It's not how much they cost. How much can you afford? Because it don't matter if a Bees Knees Hall of Fame one costs $80 an hour or some craziness. Don't matter if you can't afford them. So what can you actually afford? Are you looking for US based or overseas? And like I said, I gave you some of the averages essentially. But you can find some really dope people between like the $3 to $5 and $7 range per hour if you do it that way. If you get a quote, just make sure what they're going to charge you. Let's say it could be $200 to $300, $500, $400, $500, depends, for X amount of videos per month. They still got a bottom line to meet. They may have other clients and stuff too. What's the turnaround time? What's the revision process like? There's a lot of other factors that go into that. So it's more than just how much they cost. How much can you afford? Junya, is that how you pronounce your name? Again, guys, if I ever pronounce your name incorrectly, just please let me know how to say it right. I always care to say your name the right way. They say execution is where most people get stuck. There is an abundance of consumption that does not translate to content. But we're in a consumer market too, which is a great thing. And I love your profile picture. That's dope. Might have to steal that for this holiday season. But yeah, that's dope. That's a great quote. I have nothing to add to that. That's a great one. Saying you are the best, long time sub. Fit with CJ, fitness content and digital marketing with a laptop. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. And thank you. I appreciate you. Question, what is the ideal frequency for videos to upload in a week? The best practice for YouTube is 1 video per week. This is what YouTube for a couple years did themselves when they started to build the YouTube creators channel. They adhere to the 1 video per week. The reason why is because most of the time, you as a new creator, you have a lot of things to learn in a short window, and 7 days actually ain't that long, because you got to think whatever time you're committing to, maybe not actually recording content stuff. You got the stages, you got your planning, you have the recording side of things, you have your editing side of things, you have now the publishing side that's going to include, things like your thumbnail, putting together the written content that goes, even like the text that's on the thumbnail, if you have some title, description, if you're adding any kind of tags that are relevant to what you're talking about, if you have it add into a playlist, which one does this go to? Again, and how does that fit in your strategy of what needs to go out for the quarter? 1 video per week is actually quite a bit, because sometimes you're starting with all of those questions to try to figure out an answer. And if you came a little bit later, I highly encourage you to watch maybe like the first 10 minutes of the stream. Dived into a lot of great content. I'm actually going to try to cut that up and just put it in the podcast for sure for next week. Changing things on the podcast, so I apologize we didn't have an episode the last 2 weeks, I think. But I encourage you, watch the first 10 minutes of the live stream. Not because I'm being facetious, but seriously. But yeah, frequency once per week gets you in a habit, allows you to find a system that you can actually commit to. That's why it's the once per week. Now, to be honest with you all, once per week really isn't enough anymore. Consumption is high. People are used to being consumers. They're going to consume out of frustration, and they just need to relax and watch something of interest. You could be that person. Whether they're searching and looking for answers, you could be that person. If you're watching this live stream, hit the like button. You could be that person. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you got to think consumption is high. So once per week, you get lost in the feed quick. Why? Because YouTube Shorts are in the feed now. You have community tab posts are in the feed now. You also, now that community tab is going to expand into like photos, polls, we're getting ready to add some carousels and stuff to it. So you got a ton of other stuff. It's easy to get lost in the sauce if you post it 3 times per week. So honestly, it's not enough, but that's where you should start to develop your system of how and what it takes for you to process an actual good video. Not just put something up, but an actual good video. Because anybody could sit down for 3 minutes and just rant. Hell, I've been doing it for what? 46 minutes. So it's easy. But what's a good, solid piece of content? What does that look like? How long does it take you to edit, or how long does it take your editor to edit that piece? Those are important questions to answer. Then set a goal for at least 2 times per week. Then work out a content strategy that's going to serve you and your audience. Question, Junya, I believe I'm saying it right, or Junya. If the market decides on what content is valuable, when do you listen to the market? And if YouTube is not what you should keep doing, that's a fantastic question, and I love that you asked that. Let's break this down. If the market decides on what content is valuable, pause. Your audience is the only market that you need to focus on. So now you take a global consensus and you narrow it down to one lane. And that's the only lane that you need to worry about is yours. Why? Because everybody else stuff don't matter. They're in their lane. Yeah, somebody may go from here. You sharing a viewer, like I make video. Everybody made a video about this ZBE10. What's the difference though? Who do I care about? Busy entrepreneurs. My thing is about helping entrepreneurs simplify the video creation process. So to go back to your question, I'm gonna bring it back up. The market decides on what content is valued. The only market I'm concerned about is content creating entrepreneurs. Are other people going to come into the community that maybe don't fit that demographic? Sure, and they're welcome. But sometimes things may not be aligned, which is why sometimes they go elsewhere. That's fine. The only market that you need to focus on is your people. Who are you targeting? Who is your ideal audience and viewer? And again, if you go back to like the first 10 minutes of the live stream, I covered that about creating a content plan, right? And understanding like what are the things that's important to them. Like I said, the question that I posed is, what is the unspoken desire that you haven't answered? Why do I pose it that way? Because this right here, that's valuable to them. It addresses the problem that they're having, their right now pain point. It addresses the thing that's confusing them, the thing that's annoying them, the thing that's keeping them up at night. That's valuable. You know, when McDonald's or Burger King or Qdoba or Jimmy John's or Subway or any of these companies or the grocery store becomes valuable to, when you're hungry, when you're thinking about, I need food. Why? Because we need it. What do you care about? Maybe you care about your health. So instantly you don't care about McDonald's. You don't care about Burger King. You don't care about any of the greasy spaces. Now you're only focused here. So what does it matter if McDonald's comes out with a triple burger 1,000 something patty? Who cares? You're never going to eat it. So the market decides what's valuable based on their desire. That's the desire you need to be focusing on. I'm going to bring this question back up, answer this other half. When do you listen to the market? The thing is, it's like you're not listening. It's a weird way to say this, and I hope that I communicate this properly. It's not like you're waiting for them to tell you. You're the leader. You're the leader. If this is where I was saying like earlier, storytelling actually matters and entrepreneurs don't know how to make that connection. When you have a brand and a market business, your brand and stuff like that, and you're marrying this with storytelling, when you start marrying these two together, it's not like you're waiting for them to tell you what they want. You're forward-thinking and knowing the customer journey. For example, if you create tutorials around software, let's say Final Cut Pro, or it could be Ecamm Live even, and that's what you focus on. What's valuable to that person? Being able to do this confidently, successfully, without looking like a fool. That last part matters because they don't want to live stream anyway, or didn't, because they didn't want to look like a fool. They didn't know how to manage the live chat. They didn't know how to manage it when it's heavy. They didn't know how to manage a bad comment. What happens when they get called out their name? What happens if they get a technical issue? You know how you become valuable to them? You become the person that answers that, all those things, specifically speaking to your target audience. The second aspect, I love this question. Listening to them, you're not listening to them. You're the guide. It's a book by Donald Miller. I don't have it on my desk, I don't think. Or do I? It's somewhere around me. My bad. I got like 4 books over here. But it's a book by Donald Miller called Building a Story Brand. That's important because he tells you how to marry these two together. The part where you all get confused, you're trying to be the hero. In the story framework, it's about a character who wants something. They go on a journey to get it. And again, this matters for businesses. This is not about being a filmmaker or whatever. It's about a character who wants something. They go on a journey to get it. They encounter a problem, obviously, but they also encounter a guide who gives them a plan. The guide gives the person with the problem a plan that calls them to action, gives them something to do, to execute on, learn and do. Amen. And actually leads that person to success, avoiding failure. That process continuously repeats because they're constantly going on a customer journey where you're further down the line and you're telling them like a freaking GPS Watch out for the pothole 3 miles down. There's a little bit of traffic. Turn left here. In about 3 miles, you're going to encounter a traffic light stop. You're the guide. You're not the hero. You already know your stuff. You know what problems they're going to interact with. You know what issues they're going to have. If you're a real estate agent, you're going to tell them, like, make sure you don't fill out box CA on such and such application, because that's what gets you denied if you say this language, because that's not what they're asking for. And so basically you put a bunch of stuff there, but you didn't answer them. You know, you're the guide. Great question. I love that question. So what's the email address again? Book, B-O-O-K, Diana Gladney @gmail.com. Patrick Lee Johnson in the building. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Nice thumbnail picture you got there. Saying building studio for ministry, app, online training, multiple cameras. Can the 4K 60S Plus, the new Elgato, be used to help the workflow? Currently have the Camlink 4K. How can the ATEM help with eCam? Please advise. So that's a compounded question a bit there. Let me take a sip of water. All right, before we get into gear, the number one thing is this. You need to understand, like, don't spot buy something. What is the system of gear that you need in order to do what you're doing? You said multiple cameras. How many? Sometimes, again, because you may have the ATEM Mini, not the ATEM Mini Pro, you just may have ATEM Mini, that device is not as helpful as if you just had 4 cam links, honestly. If you just had 4 cam links, you at least see each individual camera feed. Now you can individually see those in eCam. ATEM Mini disappears. You kind of get rid of it. If you don't have this, it's like I said, it's in the new beta. So at some point, that should be rolling out. So now you don't have to worry about that. You got the 4K 60S. I can't see that being better than the Camlink 4K because it's already 4K. The ATEM Mini Pro is unnecessary, and it's not ATEM Mini Pro. The ATEM Mini, if you have that, again, as an example, becomes unnecessary. Again, how many cameras? What are we trying to do? What's the end result goal? And what's the system of gear that will work together to best serve that? My opinion, and I've done this with 3 to 4 cameras. 4 cameras. I've done it with 4 cameras. The ATEM Mini doesn't work that great. You can't see each individual camera feed, and you can't record each individual camera feed. Like I said, with eCam, if you get the beta right now, you can test that, and it's working out pretty good. But again, it's beta, so you can wait. But I honestly think if you get 4 cam links, yes, the cost, but at the same time, you get each individual feed. It's all 4K. All this extra other stuff goes away. Personally, if you get the ATEM Mini Pro, yes, you have the software and you can see that. And again, like I said, you can do the 4K in the camera. It's going to downscale to 1080p or whatever sometimes, but then you can go over to 4K on the output side of things. It's weird, but if you follow my gist. But I don't like the ATEM Minis. I think they suck. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they're good devices. They work. They do their jobs. Nothing like wrong with them. But comparison of, like, again, eCam, the simplicity, I know it's going to record. It's all going to do 4K, isolated audio. I can have all of my stuff that you want to do for remote producing. I can't see much need in it. And as far as the Elgato 4K 60S, I think you said, Camlink 4K does the job. My opinion. Equip Institute saying, yes, get the right tool to accomplish what has to be accomplished. Amen. Saying, great recommendation. I use the Mac Mini. 100% saying, okay, I didn't know about the camera and the ATEM Mini. I use eCam Beta for the FX3. I just send the 4K signal to the A-cam and upscan the eCam. Yeah, you can. Like I said, because it can survive the compression, like the squeezing and then extracting it back out again or pushing it to 4K. Fun fact, even just recording in 4K in eCam, when we're doing micro content and stuff like we did the one recently, I know we had with Trey Van Camp, we had Ray Edwards, we had Sylvia and Andrew Nixon. Theirs wasn't 4K, but you get anybody else that's doing like 4K, we just cropped in to the side-by-side. I didn't have like a 2 camera setup. The beta wasn't out for that yet. Let me show y'all what that looked like just for a display example. So if I turn on my guest interview thing, let me show y'all the side of it. All right, so now you're seeing behind the scenes in eCam. So in my folders, I have over here, like I can turn this on. When I'm doing it with an interview or whatever, I can do this setup. And then you see like that's for guest 1, and then I'm over here or whatever. So this is like the same kind of setup for the podcast. Podcast is actually down here in its own folder with the stuff that I use or whatever. And so I have a folder for the guest as well. If you don't use folder systems, what are you doing out here in these digital streets? So this is like the official grid and setup for when I'm using it with a guest. But we just punch in because it's doing 4K. Usually that person has a good camera. And so I can make sure that the stuff actually looks good. It's in 4K, it can survive. So that's why I say, like, I don't be trying to be like brand loyal. These brands don't pay me for that kind of stuff. I'm solutions and efficiency oriented more than I care about a brand. I love a brand like Ecamm because they solve the problem. They're constantly forward thinking. They're an excellent guide in my storytelling, singing, and setup. They do a freaking good job. It ain't about like brand loyalty. vidIQ, not vidIQ. What am I saying? What is the other one? vMix. They're a fine company, but it's like I rock with Ecamm, like StreamYard. They've become a great company. I rock with Ecamm. Why? Because they solve my problems constantly. A great company. Really great company. Constantly forward thinking. So sometimes, like, again, when y'all are buying stuff, it's fine to have certain tools that can sometimes solve certain problems, but really think about, again, the system of gear that's going to work together so you're not spot buying stuff and then you got to figure out how to jerry rig it together and you like, but I need this thing, and it's like, stop. We are so into like the good days of live streaming and technology right now. Whatever you buy right now, you will not have to upgrade it for a long time unless you just want to. So y'all think about a system of what you're going to buy that's going to work together instead of like spot buying stuff. And if something new does come out, how is this going to fit into your system so you're not wasting money? What is up, Mr. Camera Junkie? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Roy saying, great, thanks. You are most welcome, my good Sarah. Saying the only issue with cam links is that sometimes they're that lose their order in the setup. So when I start Ecamm, I might need to check that cameras first sometimes. Mr. Camera Junkie does remote production stuff, and he uses Ecamm. The thing is this, when we're doing a setup, and even like when I'm doing like an event stuff like that, when last time we was in Washington, when you have your cameras and stuff and your feed and all that stuff set up in your tech setup process, you're going to be there. I've gotten to the room, if I can get in there, sometimes 2 hours early or as early. I always ask, what is the earliest that the room can open? I probably piss the people off at the front desk. I'm like, well, we can open it at 5:45. Perfect. It's not till 9. Open it at 5:45, please. Because you want to make sure your things are set up. So if you're setting up for an event, even if cam links switch or whatever, it behooves you, regardless, like we never had that problem, honestly. It behooves you to do a run through for your setup to make sure it's still looking like it's supposed to. So you're not like, oh, that's not the right thing on the screen. You're like, oh, hold on 1 second. Let me, code 727, hold on, error 3000. No, get your stuff together, organized system. So cam links is all right. Saying you switch cameras with the number pad. Nope. I use the Loop Deck Live. So what I was showing y'all, I showed y'all this last week, I think, or whatever. And even when I'm pressing that, you can use the keyboard, but you don't have to anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to do like keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to anymore. When I'm doing a course, like again, this is why I have the folders that I have. Usually when this is all condensed down, this is all that I see over here in this scenes window. Like, I'm like, if I'm going to do screen shares, here are the options of what I would use. If I'm going to do an interview, I'm not doing more than 4 people, or for the most part, unless maybe for some odd reason I decide to, but I'm usually not going to. 4 is usually max I personally go to. Maybe I'll play around with some of the other ones, but then I have a folder. What am I commonly going to do? And I have that stuff here. All this stuff is set up as well to mimic Loop Deck Live, and I was showing that last week how that same system is set up in the Loop Deck Live. So I'm gonna take y'all over there real quick. This is the Loop Deck Live. Let me bring this over yonder so y'all can see this. This is the Loop Deck Live. All right, over here you have where number one, hold on, let me fix this. Forgot to when I was done. All right, you have over here in the Loop Deck Live that all my buttons is based on a show. Like I can sign it different colors, but it's also designed on different things. So like the first one is just the basic stuff that I would use for a live stream. And then that's pretty much it. Like it don't it don't require a whole lot else. So because of that, I'm good. You know, I don't have to do a whole lot. So I can do buttons. Number one is for that. Number two is like sometimes if I'm doing extra guests or whatever, that is for when I'm doing the podcast and what's the system and the show run through that I'm doing for that. This is like when I'm doing other stuff and I do need to have like the 4 cams if we're, again, doing something specific. And then I just have other stuff on here. If I'm doing a course, I'll build that out for that. And then I have one for the Video Simplified Community. So that way, when I go through and I'm doing my stuff, I'm hitting a button. So if we have a certain setup, I'm like, what's the system and the flow that we're doing for that event? You got it. If you don't get anything, if you're doing remote producing or if you're just doing your own show, what's your run of show? What's the run of show? You have Ecamm. Don't have a bunch of scenes and stuff and be like, where is it? Oh, let me click Loop Deck Live. I'm trying to tell you. Elgato, what's the name, is nice. And may the Lord bless you and keep you for that. But no, Loop Deck Live all day long. Systems and efficiency. That's how I operate personally. Can you show me your light setup? Absolutely. There's a video on the channel where we do talk about the lighting setup. It's very simple. You know what I haven't done personally? And I got to run because I in a minute, I got maybe like 20, 30 more minutes. Nah, maybe like 15, 20 minutes because I need a break. So maybe like 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to wrap up the stream. So if you got questions, rapid fire right now, throw that in the chat. I'm going to go through, answer all those questions. So the reason why I don't show my setup, if you watch the vlog channel, you've seen it. A desk, a computer, one monitor, Rodecaster Pro, Shure SM7B, A6400, 35mm f1.8 lens. Lights, one right here, one right there. That one back there is a lamp that is behind the bookshelf that I can change the colors for. It's like one of those RGB bulbs from IKEA. And back there is an LED light. Lights is Viltrox. If you go to, I think it's like diana.link/lights. I keep my stuff simple. I promise you, if you've watched the channel, you've seen the office, you've seen the setup. And I'm not cleaning my desk and taking the 7 books, the 83,000 journals and planners off of my desk. So I got like hashtag show me your real desk. No, my desk is messy because I'm actually working. I'm not straightening it up for a video. I'm just not. I refuse right now. And this season, for the next couple months, I'm just not doing it. So I promise you, my light setup, it's simple. I've talked about it. We've even done deep dives on the live show where I'm like, here's how you adjust the lighting so you don't have hot spots and stuff. I promise you. So am I going to show it right now? Then no, but it's very simple. I promise. So you can use the Stream Deck 15 key for your scene switching. We ain't doing no stream nothing. We doing Loop Deck Live out here in these digital streets, Mr. Camera Junkie. Saying, please give Diana a chance to answer your question. Oh yeah, don't spam chat, y'all. Chill out. Tatiana Teaches, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Saying, just coming in, important topic. I just started live streaming and 1 time per week takes loads of planning, time, and energy. I'm also doing 1 to 2 shorts per week. Again, that's the thing. It's like hearing how much somebody else produces, just like our content calendar right now. If my assistant finished it, it's like we have 100 pieces of content in the next 2 weeks that's going out on one platform. That's not accounting for the other stuff. So we have hundreds of pieces of content getting ready to drop across several platforms, our primary ones that we're focusing on. So that doesn't happen. In the Mastering Micro course that I offered, it's not available right now. I'm updating that and then more details on that later. But like I talked about how easy it is to produce 100 pieces of content. Even Gary Vee has talked about this. He didn't go into more specific details, but like it's like Even he talked about it. You can produce 100 pieces in a day. It actually is easy. But if that main pillar piece of content isn't together, if your team doesn't know how to pull content for you, if you just aren't that comfortable with the planning of content and stuff yet, like, you give yourself some grace, y'all. I get 2023 is coming, but give yourself some grace. If January, here's, I'm gonna say something that's counterintuitive to the stuff I said in the first 10 minutes of the stream, because we went into a lot of details. I'm gonna say something counterproductive to that. If January comes, the first week of January happens, the second week of January happens, and you just don't have your content plan together yet, you still have an entire year to get it together. I wouldn't say wait, but I am saying sometimes give yourself some grace. I've talked to some people. Some of y'all went through some really difficult stuff this year. Have and give yourself a little bit of grace dealing with some of that stuff. Some of y'all lost some family members, and like it drug you. It drug you to the ground. Some of y'all got incredibly sick, and like you still are dealing with it, and medical bills and trying to recover. Give yourself a little bit of grace. If it's not done by and perfected by the end of the week. Yes, one video per week, it does take some work. That's what I was saying earlier. Give yourself some time to actually go into the process of figuring out your system just for your main piece of content. One tip, stop doing 10 and 12 minute videos. Don't do 8-minute videos. 3 to 5 minutes. Start there. What can you produce that in the finished version is a 3 to 5 minute video? I've taught y'all and talked about the content quadrant. What do you need to do? So you have that light planner, just one of the content quadrant pieces, 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 7, depending on what all is included in the video. It needs to be in the video. Some of y'all are like how I was, and that's okay, because your audience will train you. You just, what you could say, you are saying, instead of finding a more refined way to say it. Be more concise in what you're saying. Some of y'all read a script and you are doing the teleprompter gig. Chill on all that. You know your stuff. I see some, I've watched some channels and the whole time it's like this. If you or a loved one is suffering from mesothelioma, call 1-800, we got your back. And it's just like, who are you looking at? Because my eyes are up here. Like, who are you talking to? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, they forget that they're recording a video to camera instead of reading a script. Chill on the teleprompter stuff and like the it's gotta be word for word thing. Y'all driving yourself crazy with that stuff. Chill. You can grow and have great success not doing all of that and stressing yourself the hell out and the script gotta be perfect. You know how to talk to people. Talk to your people. You know how to talk to people. Talk to your people. Break it up into segments. I've taught all this stuff on the channel. Okay, walk comedy. I almost hit the Wheel of Wonder music for you, girl. I almost hit the Wheel of Wonder music for you. Okay, walk comedy. Get to see you saying take a break from the kids to see if there will be a Wheel of Wonder. Not today. We won't have the book cover reveal. I will schedule in advance for the book cover reveal and the Wheel of Wonder giveaway and all that comes with it. So you will have advance notice, but I can't wait for you to play again this year. Question saying, for beginners, what camera would you recommend for content creators on a budget, and does the camera have to have autofocus? Yeah, I do not teach the school of manual focus the lens, have a camera that's looking back there at John Coltrane instead of looking at you and your eyes are right here. Having a camera with bad autofocus is a waste of your time. I don't care what no film, I'm not no filmmaker. I'm not going to try to make y'all become a filmmaker. If that's your personal interest, may the Lord bless you and keep you always. We're not about that out here in these digital streets on this channel. And I'm never going to be. I don't ever recommend a manual focus lens, and I don't ever recommend cameras that cannot completely autofocus. So is that a must? Hell yeah. How long you want to keep? Oh, let me sit. Oh, no, it's on my dreads back here. Let me tweak and let me sit up. All right, let me see. And then as soon as you lean forward, now you're completely out of focus. You just mush face. Why are you wasting your time and that much money? Or why would you waste your time and that much money on something that's, you're buying a problem? For content creating entrepreneurs, you're buying a problem if it doesn't have autofocus. So is it a must? Yes. What's a great budget friendly, beginners friendly? ZVE 10 all day, every day until the cows come home. Sony ZVE 10. It's a fantastic camera. Why? Great autofocus, flip screen, microphone, headphone port, has all of the basics that I believe a content creating entrepreneur should have access to. Completely reliable autofocus. It's not like, no camera truly is like 1,000% or whatever, but I have put the Sony line of cameras from this A6400 up to the what they got coming out now. I haven't tried the A7R5 and I can't wait to get my hands on that. But like, reliable autofocus. If I'm sitting here for an hour, I've been doing the stream, but it's back there on John Coltrane, y'all gonna be like, Miss D, it's out of focus. We need it's out of focus. Hey, did you know it's out of focus? Oh man, the camera, man, this is good content, but I wish we could see you. Why spend that much money? Most of the time, the cameras that you need are just like $200 to $300. And at $300, sometimes it depends, but it's usually like $200 extra gets you everything that you actually need instead of what you want to buy. Cameras are more expensive than what most people think. Like, granted, if you spend $200 to $300 on something, you can be like, yeah, man, that costs quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? Like in everyday life, if you bought, I don't know, a chair and it was like $300. Chairs usually maybe cost $100 or something. You're like, yeah, that was an expensive chair, but it's got this and memory foam and whatever. For cameras, the $300 ain't gonna get you nothing but accessories. In my book, don't waste your money. Don't buy a webcam. Your phone is better. ZV-10, it's like $600. Where's the other one that I got? I think I brought over here. Other one, depending on what you're more comfortable with. ZV-1, same thing. Flip screen, reliable autofocus, microphone port, incredible autofocus, 4K, all the things that a content creator would need. But the ZV-10 honestly does it. It's not perfect. Like, it doesn't have in-body image stabilization, but it does have Sony Catalyst browse. So there's a workaround for that. But that's what I would recommend. The Rochelle, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying I love you so much. Thank you. I've learned a lot. You're most welcome. Appreciate it. So what do you recommend as a strategy? As a strategy and lens to shoot something like a simple school play in a small auditorium, large classroom. I have the Sony ZV-10 boom mic, kit lens, decent tripod, and a decent tripod enough. What are you going to use for audio? Kids is messy. The audience is loud. What are you going to use for audio? So like, and I've done Christmas events at churches, and what I did was have one camera. It is maybe rent one extra camera or something like that, or have something. So what I did was, usually for the school play, even the whomever person that's doing the audio, see if you can get either a recording that you sync up in post, or if it's live, then have, like, if you can get, like, you can rent a camera or you can buy an extra camera, whatever. Have one camera that's stationary, that's one wide angle, that is your default camera. You can always cut to if something goes wrong, depending on how you're gonna work this. Or if you got help or whatever. If you just like close this door. If it's just you doing this, I still probably get audio just in case you want to redo that later in editing or whatever. But what is the main feed? I usually have a default camera that's like a wide angle that I can always default to. And in that camera is the audio piped in from the soundboard. So no matter what, if all else fails, we can go to the wide shot. And then because it'll be in 4K, we can punch in if we need to on certain parts. If you're using some kind of setup that lets you cut, and you're like how churches do, it cuts over to the worship team or whatever, and it's the on the fly camera, you could do that. But yeah, I would say that's enough. But I would think, like, what's your audio setup too? Lenses, you don't want a decent lens, because usually with school plays, and if you have a program, or if it's like the music director or somebody, most of the time they're going to turn the lights on. Try to hit a practice up if you can. This is like the best thing ever if you're doing events and stuff, even if outside the school play. Get a schedule, like get an actual run of the program, legit thing, And then see about like when they cut the lights on, what should your settings be? Set that into your camera. When do they cut the lights back on? And like I would write in, this is what I do. I write in what those settings are. So if all else fails, let's say you get a volunteer that needs to help you, use your memory recall or something, and you switch to that second setting. So you know what's what, you know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind when you're doing that. But yeah, that's enough to do a decent setup. But I like to have one stationary camera that's always like a default should something go wrong. Even like picking up a camera like the ZV-E10, it can record unlimited, it can do the 4K live streaming and all that stuff. I had a camera like that in the balcony. So again, another wide angle shot. If all else fails, we can cut to that angle for a bit and use that. So that would be my thing. Saying hello, which cameras would you use for a first time filmmaker? Depends on what kind of films and stuff you're doing. Not sure what kind of budget you have. Like I said, I'm not into filmmaking like that. I'm gonna be real honest with you. The stuff is usually the same. But if you're talking about doing something like technically, like say, yeah, you could use the ZV-E10. Is that absolutely going to be best in some scenarios? For some people, no. Some people like going backwards in the lineup, like to the A7 III, still a capable camera. But it depends on what you're shooting. If you're doing music videos, you're probably going to want something with stabilization. Regardless, you're going to want something with incredible autofocus. You're going to want something with, well, you're probably going to sync the audio up later for something like that. Again, it depends. If shooting short films or something like that, you honestly can get by with just about anything. Some people use a Panasonic G7 because it shoots 4K. I wouldn't recommend that, but I mean, technically you could get away with the ZV-E10, but like list what kind of stuff you plan to shoot. That's like my number one thing. What do you, no matter what, filmmaker is a generic term. What kind of stuff are you specifically going to shoot? If you're doing people, like not like a play or something, but you're doing like a music video stuff and you're doing filmmaking from that aspect, you know you're going to sync the audio in post. So you have some wiggle room or whatever where you can get them to do retakes. It's not a one-time wonder thing. If you're creating short films and like you're an indie filmmaker, you can use some of anything. Honestly, I would recommend getting a camera though that has something with in-body image stabilization. Sony FX30 is a great buy if you want APS-C. The Sony FX3 is a great buy if you want full frame. Even the Sony A7S III. There's a lot of great cameras out there. That's my thoughts and recommendations. But it depends on what you're shooting. Excuse me. So this is like having your white chocolate and eating it too. Thanks for all the value you provide. Always a pleasure. And we have reached the last comment. I'm cutting the music up. You know why? Because we getting ready to call it good. You can meet me over at the social media marketing. I was about to say social media marketing word, but you can meet me over at the social media examiner channel over at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time in just a little bit. So you got a little time, get you a snack, get you some coffee. I'll see you guys over there for the final YouTube live stream and updates. With that, guys, a little passion. I'll see you on the next live show. Peace.